we're going to have to make difficult decisions. We need to fix the foundations before we can start rebuilding things in Britain. But unlike the previous government, I am going to be honest about the scale of the challenge. I'm going to level with people, and together we're going to rebuild our country based on that private sector business investment to get our economy growing. Because I asked the Treasury officials to give me an assessment of how much stronger the UK economy would be today if we'd have grown at just the average rate of OECD economies these last 14 years. And the answer is we'd be £140 billion bigger today, worth £5,000 for every family in Britain. We have got to grow our economy. It's the only way to improve living standards, keep taxes low, and have the money that we need for our dilapidated public services.
The tax proposal affecting the families of fallen servicemen has ignited a fierce wave of outrage and anger across society. Who could possibly view this as a sensible decision? When Labour Party MPs backed the initiative to impose an inheritance tax on those who sacrificed their lives for the country, it triggered widespread protests throughout the nation. These payments are meant to provide support for families who have already made tremendous sacrifices for our safety and freedom. Now, if these payments are not passed on to the spouse or civil partner, they will be burdened with taxes. This means that grieving families already grappling with unimaginable loss may face additional financial hardships during their most challenging times. A prominent economist has rightly pointed out that the Labour Party needs to propose an alternative to the harsh policies endorsed by the Conservatives. He argues that banks and individuals earning over £100,000 should contribute more, otherwise, inequality and poverty will only continue to escalate. Do you share this perspective?
So what do you think about Labour's new grocery tax, known as the Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR for short? It imposes a levy on retailers and manufacturers for the cost of collecting and disposing of packaging waste, which is currently funded by our council taxes. Now this tax is part of, you know what's coming, Labour's net zero targets, this push to green energy bull. But did you know it's set to cost British households up to £1.4 billion a year?
What is particularly concerning is the increasing perception of inconsistency and hypocrisy. Critics are quick to highlight that while Reeves appears eager to impose new taxes on hard-working citizens, she completely overlooks critical issues like illegal immigration, the primary cause of the current market turmoil, the pressure on the pound, and the sharp rise in government borrowing costs is the loss of confidence in Rachel Reeves and her economic policies among global markets. When this trust erodes, the finance minister finds herself with no viable options, and the repercussions can be catastrophic for the entire country.
A quote here from a pretty prominent economist, and they say that Labour needs to provide an alternative to aggressive policies being prioritised by the Conservatives. The banks and those earning more than £100,000 could quite easily contribute a little more, and unless they do, inequality and poverty will inevitably soar in the months and years ahead. Do you agree with that statement?
The way that I believe that you can reduce inequality, reduce poverty, and actually also improve the living standards of ordinary working people, not in poverty, but struggling to get by, is through growing the economy.
You know the economist that she quoted? That was actually you.
Well, look, I mean, I want to reduce poverty and inequality. I didn't go into politics, but how do you do that? What are the practical things that we can do?
Well, your suggestion in that quote was to tax the banks more and those earning more than £100,000 more, but you've gone back on that.
Well, look, the way that I think that we can lift people out of poverty and reduce inequality, as I say, is to get the economy growing.
Observers expressed concern as they noted Keir Starmer's evident hesitation as he stumbled over crucial points when confronted with questions regarding Rachel Reeves' reliability in his office. His reluctance to address inquiries about her long-term future only intensified the growing discontent. This led many to question, does Starmer genuinely believe in this policy, or is he merely backing Reeves out of political necessity? His demeanor fell short of what is expected from a leader who should exude strength and determination. Instead, his comments only fueled public dissatisfaction and sparked further speculation about the Labour Party's ability to manage the rising anger among the populace. The demands for clarity and accountability are becoming increasingly urgent, making it clear that both Reeves and Starmer are facing immense pressure to justify their decisions to a frustrated public.
The fundamental reason why we're seeing all this turmoil on the markets, pressure on the pound, huge increases in the cost of UK government borrowing with all the bad effects that has for every family in the country is that global markets have lost trust, lost confidence in Rachel Reeves and her economic policies. And when that happens, a Chancellor of the Exchequer has no way out. It's time for Rachel from accounts to go to human resources and get her P45. Read my column in the Daily Mail.
Rachel Reeves' tax proposals have sparked a significant wave of questions and outrage. This isn't her first controversial decision. Farmers, who are essential to the UK economy, have already experienced the harsh consequences of her policies. Previous tax reforms implemented under her leadership have pushed many agricultural workers to the brink of survival. Rising costs of essential resources and dwindling livelihoods have driven some farmers to the edge of bankruptcy. Critics argue that for an industry responsible for feeding the nation, this feels like a betrayal. Now the focus has shifted to the military, a group that undoubtedly deserves the utmost support and respect. The proposal to tax payments made to the families of servicemen who lost their lives in duty has left the public in shock. The response has been one of confusion and anger. Why target those who have already sacrificed so much for our safety? These payments are intended to be a lifeline for grieving families, and the idea of taxing them seems utterly heartless and unjust to many.
Did you vote for that? Because I certainly didn't. But then I didn't vote for Labour anyway, so that means, against everything that Labour told us, we, the working people of this country, will be paying more in taxes just to support Red Ed Miliband's stupid, bloody green net zero agenda. Now, it doesn't come into force until January the 1st, but is this a coincidence or was this planned? We didn't hear anything about this until after Parliament has broken down, ready for Christmas. So for the whole of the Christmas New Year period, we've got no way of talking to these people and getting back at them and saying, what in hell are you paying for? We've got to wait until Parliament resits in the new year.
The public response has been intense and filled with emotion. People are outraged, and honestly, who can blame them? This issue goes beyond mere numbers in reports. It's about respect and support for those who have risked their lives for our country. Participants in radio discussions have labeled this proposal a disgrace and a betrayal of those who have given everything. Some have even characterized it as a blatant disrespect for military personnel and their families. People are asking, where is the empathy and gratitude? First, Rachel Reeves stripped pensioners of their winter fuel allowance, then imposed inheritance tax on farmers, and now she is burdening military personnel who sacrificed their lives for our nation. This is nothing short of an absolute disgrace. Starting in April 2027, children of military personnel and their unmarried partners will be required to pay inheritance tax on one-time payments related to deaths in service. Yet, despite the rising public outrage, Keir Starmer has made it clear that he supports Rachel Reeves and her tax changes. To many, this appears to be a risky gamble, and critics are questioning why Starmer is so determined to back such an unpopular policy, especially as public backlash continues to grow. Where is the justice? Where is the humanity?
I think it's a disastrous budget. I think it'll do the country untold harm. To start off with, we didn't know it was coming, this massive 40 billion quid, because Starmer and Rachel Reeves lied to the electorate. They didn't tell them. In the manifesto, there is no mention whatsoever of half of these increases that they've introduced right out of the blue. If the electorate had known £40 billion worth of new taxes was required, I bet you the election would have been much, much closer. Can I just say, Carolyn, please, in my view, it's a typical Labour budget. Borrow, tax, spend. 27 million people work in the private sector. They have gone in there and taken an enormous amount of money out of the private sector, which is the sector which produces all the growth and all the profit in our community, and they've transferred it to 5.5 million people in the public sector who are not anything like as productive.
Discontent is escalating with alarming intensity. People are beginning to raise troubling questions about Rachel Reeves' priorities. Why is she targeting vital industries that uphold the stability of the UK? Why penalize those who serve the country and support it during challenging times? These questions linger in the air, and so far there's no indication that anyone can alleviate the mounting anxiety. If Reeves believed her policy would fly under the radar, she was gravely mistaken. The negative backlash is only intensifying like a snowball rolling downhill. Rachel Reeves' public image is rapidly deteriorating. Her reputation has already taken a hit, as many describe her approach to economic policy as inconsistent and chaotic. Under her leadership, major companies have begun massive layoffs, and critics are openly highlighting the devastating effects of her economic choices. For someone tasked with ensuring stability, the perception of disorder in her strategies breeds significant dissatisfaction among both experts and everyday citizens who feel their future is at risk. Share your thoughts in the comments. See you next time.